You're listening to EdTech Heroes, a podcast that looks at how teachers in today's classrooms can use technology to improve student learning. In each episode, a hero in the world of education will share their story and discuss how innovation can influence the minds of the next generation. Let's jump in.
Hey y'all, and welcome to EdTech Heroes. I'm Nef, and today's guest is Dr. Jessie Fidelio Garza. Jessie has served as a film teacher, a digital learning specialist, and now is the technology integration coordinator at Los Fresnos School District in Texas. Jessie, welcome to EdTech Heroes.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, I want to start by talking about your past as a film teacher, and I have two questions. The first is, what is your favorite film? And the second is, what was your journey like to become a film teacher?
Absolutely. So my first and favorite film of all time has to be the movie Jaws. I just think it's just cinematic gold. I love everything about Bruce the shark because that was a piece of technology equipment that at the time did not work. It never worked, and I remember reading blogs and reading excerpts and studio screenplays and dialogue that has since been part of textbook analysis in film canon, where the studio didn't know who to hire to film the movie Jaws, which is based off of a book, and they hired this young, really great director named Steven Spielberg, and they said, well, he can probably get that shark to jump on a small little boat, and it was animatronics at its finest. It was technology. Things were being developed at the time. People were doing different things. Neff, I mean, he was getting people to say, okay, we're going to go underwater in a cage and we're going to film. Whoa, that had kind of been unheard of. But trying new things, right? So that was really cool, and I've always loved that movie. The screenplay is beautiful. The book is just as great. The soundtrack is obviously haunting. The acting is on point. It's fun. It's exciting. It's scary. It's gory, and it has a lot of heart. And I think that those are things that you need to have in a movie. And then the second question is my journey into a film teacher. Well, as you can tell, hopefully, I am super passionate about film. I love cinema. And when I was working on my master's degree in creative writing, I did stand up at local coffee shops. I did those gigs, and I called those gigs internships. I eventually started working as an uncredited background production runner for ABC Family. Growing up, I loved watching movies. I really did. I loved rewatching the movies too, because I thought that was just as fun. If a movie was based off of a book, I remember either seeing the movie first or reading the book first, whatever I could get my hands on, and then making my own judgment call, comparing both, contrasting both, trying to find ways to, this could have been done this way to make it even more compelling and all of that. So that to me was a big part of my childhood. And I remember being in the classroom and the teacher would wheel in a VCR. Do you remember the VCRs that were on those carts? And I remember seeing that. All of the students would just gasp. It was like this collective, and I was just there, super giddy, and being a student that sometimes sat not so much in the back row, but on the side of the class, nearest the window or nearest something that could have been more interesting, than a long lecture. I remember seeing that VCR come in and say, oh my gosh, what are we going to watch? This is going to be exciting. This is going to be fun. This is going to be engaging. And I'm going to be all of my senses are going to be heightened right now. And so that was something that I was also passionate about too. And that brought me into filmmaking. It brought me into my passion for video in curriculum and with teachers and students using that.
Very cool. I remember being so excited too about that VCR, or when Bill Nye would play and the entire class lets out this Bill, and we're so excited about it. And I am curious, when you think about integrating video into curriculum, how do you coach teachers to do that? When do you use video? How do you use it? How do you make it effective?
Absolutely. It's really a matter of just finding the level of comfort that teachers have with film, with cinema, with
Mm,
movies, videos in general, all of which are so different, right, to everybody, but are pretty much the same thing. And so really having those conversations with teachers and saying, "Do you show film clips?" And most of them will say, "Yeah, I do. I show 15-second videos." How do you show that? And
mhm,
what part of your instruction do you show that? Well, sometimes I use it as a bell ringer. Okay, okay. And how does that work? And it's really engaging, but then they lose interest after a while. Okay, well, have you tried showing maybe like another little clip, maybe throughout to keep that hook, right? Get the
mhm,
kids still connected to what they're being taught. And so it's like really finding those moments and having those conversations with teachers and seeing where they use film clips. Where do they use actual film showings? Do they
mhm,
show an actual film at the end or at the beginning? Do they show maybe processes? Are they broken down? Like how do teachers use it? And honestly, I've all the teachers I've met, every one of them show at least a 30-second film clip
mm,
for
mhm.
something. And so it's how do they use it? And usually it's a lesson that they're super in love with, and that's usually where a teacher spends the majority of his or her time because they are so in love with that unit, so in love with that lesson that they put the glitter, they put all the sparkles, everything to make that unit, that lesson, like just so fabulous, right? But then there's other lessons too that they might not be so keen to, may not love as much, and those are the lessons that we can really enhance through the use of video.
Yeah, certainly. And when you are able to coach a teacher and they're using clips of video and students are engaged, can you tell me a little bit about what that classroom looks like? What is the benefit of really infusing film and how does that transform classrooms?
It totally transforms classrooms. It's a total shift in what it looks like in the classroom. You can hear it. You can hear the
Mm,
excitement in the students' voices. They're giggling. They're either wondering. They're asking a bunch of questions. Everybody is super hyper engagement is taking place because we're going really from a print kind of classroom to a pixelated classroom, right? And everybody is just super super engaged, and you have students that are raising their hands because they already have questions or they're already forecasting what's going to happen in the video. Now, it's a game changer with Screencastify because teachers are able to create their own videos.
mm,
So, gone are the days where teachers could really just show clips from YouTube or show clips that they've found and kind of brought together and edited. Now they can actually film themselves.
mhm,
Now they can film a slideshow and they can really just play the slideshow for the students, play the presentation for the students, play the multimedia presentation, whatever it may be to the students, and they are fully in control. The teachers are now, if they are creating a video using Screencastify, they're wearing that film director hat, and they're able to make those choices and those judgments of what is it that they want to show the students, because the students are ultimately the audience here. They're the ones sitting down with the popcorn or the tomatoes,
mhm.
right? Getting ready to see if this is going to be a fun video or a non-fun video. But teachers are able to make that judgment call, and I think that when they hear and they see, the students get excited because there's Mr. So and so, there's Mrs. So and so on the screen, and they're teaching us about chemistry, they're
Mhm.
teaching us about oceanography. They're teaching us about all of these different things. That's where it gets really exciting for a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the analogy that you just made in terms of when we as educators create videos, we become field directors where we're making all of these choices. We're deciding what actors or what materials we want to cast. and we're creating it specifically for the audience. And the fact of the matter is, as film directors or as educators, nobody knows that audience better than us. It's almost as if you go to the movie theater and you have seen a video or a movie that's created just for you. Those kind of surreal experiences where you're watching something and you're like, oh my God, this speaks to my soul. And that only happens every once in a while when it comes to a movie. I think a lot of times educators think that creating a video is really hard or something that they're not going to be able to do well, and they default to videos that have already been created. If that's the case, what advice do you give teachers when they're just starting out to be able to create effective videos or to be able to create videos that really engage their students?
I believe in this old saying where it's really based off of a famous Kelly Clarkson song that goes something like this: take a chance, make a change, and all together now, break away. Really, it's really just taking that chance, making a change, right? And then really just all together now, break away, right? Try to do that. Make that risk, in the
Mm,
in the classroom. It's definitely going to be worthwhile,
mm,
and I try my very best, Neff, to let them know that it is okay to be
mhm,
a risk taker in the classroom. And it is absolutely 100% okay if it doesn't work out the first time. The first video that I created on Screencastify looked horrendous, but then the second video got better. The third video got better. The fourth video got better. And I don't know, I have like 400 videos, I think, at this point that I've created. And now they're instructional, they're better. There's
mhm.
these gorgeous little graphics at the bottom. So really it's just really knowing that it's okay to take that first step. It's gonna be scary, but if you fail in front of the class, the students are going to love you all the more for it, because I believe in my heart of hearts that the students are going to say, you know what, she or he, we're human, they're human, we're all human
Mhm.
here. We're not robots by any means, and it's so important for teachers to know that, you know, teachers, students, all of us right now, if we're really lifelong learners, if we are truly lifelong learners, then we're going to learn from this and we're going to move forward, and we're going to continue learning from this, and we're going to move forward and learn from that and move forward. And so really it's a lifelong learning kind of mindset, and
Mhm.
it's scary. I can see how that can be, but what I enjoy the most when I get to meet with our new teachers at our new teacher technology academy, we bring them all in and they all have their laptops, and I get Screencastify on their Google Chrome, and they can see that little extension up there. They see the little pink arrow, click on it once, say yes, 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 yes to all the things that are popping up, and let's create your first video. And they create their first video and they start to immediately love how they're
Mm,
able to now share it. They're able to, save it, and it's already saved. They're able to edit it, come
mhm.
back, add more media in there, and continue, revising that. And so, really, our teachers learn from those hiccups along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I so love that. When I was in the classroom, I was super transparent. And I remember coming back from NCTE one year, and I was like, y'all, I've been to so many sessions. I feel like I am full of knowledge, and I'm about to try it out on you all. Please don't read me. Don't tell me that I'm doing a bad job. I'm just trying it out, and then we'll come back together and we'll see if we like it. But I think just as much as I learned in that experience, students also got the opportunity to be in this really transparent environment where I was showing my vulnerability, and they were able to not only learn, but also get to learn a little bit about how they best learn and give some critique and some feedback. So I love that idea of kind of just taking the first step and knowing that in lots of ways, students are going to have our backs, even if we give them the most horrendous video they've ever seen. It's something to laugh about. And you know what? That's engagement. So that's awesome, right? Um, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of sharing and revisiting videos. So, what does it look like for a teacher to effectively share an instructional video? What types of things are they looking for? How do they do that? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing we want is for a teacher to create a video
Mm,
and that teacher is now ready to share the video, but
mhm.
they're thinking, where do I share this video that I just created? You
Yeah.
know, I use the webcam feature, I use the multimedia feature by showing my screen, my whole screen for that matter. Now it's where do I share it? You know, I don't want this video to fall inside of a vacuum and nobody ever sees it. There's no engagement. I'm looking at the analytics. There's like one view and it's my own, you know? So how do I share this and where do I share it? One of the recommendations that I share to teachers actually, share to share is that we have them share their videos in the learning management system, and that's
Mm,
Google Classroom for our district. For other districts, it may be Blackboard, it may be another program altogether. However, it's recommended to share a video there, right? Or any kind of video content there that you create with Screencastify. Now, the glorious, wonderful thing about Screencastify is it allows the teachers to be able to go back, reflect on what it is
mm,
that they shared, and they can actually edit that. They can add more content to that, and it's great that it's Google based. It's a little folder that's created for them right there in the Google Drive, the cloud, and they're able to right there edit, go to editor, add graphics, add content, and they can reshare. Now, what's so awesome about the sharing component is that you're able to start to navigate and you're able to edit how you want to share that video. It could be public, it could be unlisted, or it could just be
mhm,
within your organization. And I think that is wonderful for our teachers. Some of the things they look for, Nef, when it comes to sharing is okay, can we share some of this content on social media? Because we want to share the
mhm,
wonderful things that our students are doing on Twitter. We want to share to our school Facebook. We want to share to the world on that kind of platform. And we want society to know in our region here what our students are doing. Our slogan is what we do here shapes the world. So the little things that are happening inside of our classrooms can truly make profound effects across the world. So we really want to share that. And those are some of the things that our teachers look for all programs. How can we share what we're doing here in Los Fresnos to people across the world?
mm. I love that. And I was on Twitter the other day, and I won't get this tweet completely correct, but the sentiment was that as educators, professional development really comes from the teacher down the hall or the teacher next door, and seeing what they're doing, seeing how that works, and then being able to mimic or replicate that for the students that you engage with. And what I love about the approach that you all have taken is that it goes beyond who's down the hall. But I might be a teacher in Chicago looking for how somebody has conceptualized a particular lesson, and I can hop on Twitter and see some of the dope things that are happening in Los Fresnos and be able to replicate that as well. So it's mind boggling the way in which technology has really spurred innovation and has made this teaching community, although relatively large, a little bit smaller where we can all really, really learn from each other. So I know that y'all are sharing a whole heap of a lot out with other folks. How do you all also internalize that in terms of what you receive and how your teachers take from Twitter or from other resources to be able to implement that in their classroom?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So what we often do is we look at what's out there. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
let's look at what's out there because not everything is replicatable to our
Mm-hmm.
district, to our campuses, and to our classrooms, right? Our demographic of students may be a little bit different than others across the world. So it's like, how can we replicate some of this instruction and how can we do it in a way that will not only allow the students to want to continue learning, foster that lifelong learning, but also allow the community insight into the great things that are happening. One of our
Mm-hmm.
biggest things here is share casing. We like to sharecase all the successes that our students are making, because that to us builds community, and that
Mm-hmm.
to us also helps foster the wonderful things that are happening. So we look at what's out there. What are the trends? What are the fads? What do we see moving forward? And let's see if we can think beyond the curve as far as what trends are coming our way in educational technology. With Screencastify, what that allowed for us to do is it allowed for us to really internalize and see the videos that the students and teachers had created, and allowed them to be able to reflect on the video quality, the video
Mm-hmm.
types, what they considered maybe rigorous instruction. Maybe they could have added some more of this or more of that, less of this, you know?
Mm.
And so it really allows the teachers to be able to see, okay, you know what? I needed to maybe change this up a little bit. Maybe I need to move
Mm-hmm.
faster in this component here. So it really allows the teachers to be able to forecast, because every classroom that they have year after year will always be different,
For
and what
sure.
also has helped us too is, yeah, what has also helped us with this as well is that with Screencastify, you're able to personalize the videos to individual students.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me has been the game changer. When we talk about videos that have a significant meaning to a class, that's one thing. But to a student that might be sitting in the far corner right by the window, little Jesse, staring out the window, talking to the birdie and saying, "Hey, birdie, how does it feel to be free out there?" Um, me, I probably would have needed like one or two redirectional videos to just get back on task, you know, because I had the HD, I had the high def version of ADHD. So I probably would have needed more personalized videos because that was a student that I was. And I know that there's still students like me that exist. And this program, Screencastify, has really revolutionized how we differentiate instruction for all populations. And that has been a true blessing.
Yeah, there are so many dope tidbits in what you just said. I think that there is a really cool component in terms of being able to almost watch game film a little bit of yourself as an educator, be able to reflect, see how that went, and then iterate on that, right? Like you've created this video maybe this school year and it went over well. And then next school year, you're teaching the same unit and you're like, okay, this is where the misconceptions were. This is where I feel like I lost engagement. And how can I improve that? Right. And we think about that in terms of refining over and over for our audience, to go back to that metaphor from a while ago. But then the other part of it is, how do we create different experiences for our students in different seats? And that is amazing. I feel like we've been talking about differentiation and individualized instruction for decades in education. And when it comes down to it, teachers, I think, are saying, yeah, I want to do that, but how do I do that? And video has kind of come out to be one of these answers that allows teachers to be able to do that without them having to be in a million places at once. So, I also want to talk a little bit about some of the different tools and things that you all are using, right? Like you're using video, you're using your LMS, as well as any other technology tools that might be good for students around Los Fresnos. I am curious, how do you keep it all straight as the tech department, and how do you allow teachers to kind of simplify their workflows across all of the different tools that they might use in a given day or within a particular unit?
Great question. One of the great things that I get to do as a technology integration coordinator is I get to evaluate all of the instructional and technology resources that are available for our teachers and for our students. I get to survey and I get to get these really great feedback data points where I can really start to identify what the themes are. What we did last academic year during the midst of the pandemic was that we bought a lot of stuff, okay? And we weren't the only district. There were many
Mm,
districts all over the world, really, that were just buying everything, to help make sure that teachers had what it was that they needed, right? And in many cases, some of the programs that we got were very similar, very comparable to other programs that we were also buying to. In fact, some of them might have been even competitors, right, with
Mm,
other programs. What we did after that was we said, okay, well, we can't be continuing to buy all of these programs. We really need to start to streamline some of these things here. So what we did was we started to survey the students, survey the teachers, get some data right back. And what we looked at, Nef, was we found that students really like to get formatively assessed. They
mm,
like pop quizzes, they like tests. And that was a shocker for me because I mean, when I was a student, I really didn't like pop quizzes and tests. But then again, that was a different generation. And the students today like to have those pop tests, those pop quizzes, those formative assessments in the shape, in the form of gamified ways, right? Gamified
mm,
tools. And so tools like Kahoot, tools like GimKit, Nearpod, all of these different platforms started coming to the surface and students loved them. So when we found that students loved them, and guess what? Teachers also loved them too,
mhm,
then it became a win-win. Let's keep these programs. Let's keep supporting these programs. Let's streamline these programs even more. One of those programs was Screencastify. Teachers absolutely adored the fact that they were able to save the videos, share the videos, continue editing the videos, submit the videos, do all those different things that Screencastify had. And when we found that other districts around the world were also using Screencastify too, it became a no-brainer for us as a district, for our students that were getting quarantined, for our teachers that were getting quarantined as well. On a realistic note, they were able to share messages from a social emotional level. Neff,
mhm,
we were really able to see and to engage and really get some insight with students to be able to share. Before all of this, you could really go up to a student, give them a sticker on their forehead or like their hand or their cheek or whatever. Really can't do that, you know?
mhm,
So these little videos acted as like a sticker, like a hug to the kids
mm,
because in the moment we really couldn't do that, you know? And we're very fortunate that we're moving past all of that, but we have these videos to capture. It's almost like a capsule, right, of a time. And you brought up the refining, right? And I think
mhm.
that that's a big component for our teachers with Screencastify. They're able to refine their craft because of this platform. So that's been a remarkable thing for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I feel that on lots of levels in terms of being able to survey folks and get an idea of what's really working, and also to invest in technology tools that are able to serve unique purposes and also push not only student learning, but also these student teacher relationships. Like, research tells us year after year, study after study, that one of the most impactful things we can do as educators is to build relationships with our students. And that almost always is going to lead to deeper learning. So if we can find something that's going to both promote learning in the traditional sense and also promote these really, really deep relationships, that is a win-win. I I want to talk specifically about surveying students because I think a lot of people might listen to this and think that that is a really novel concept. Like, they've never, ever in their lives thought to survey students about what technology tools they actually like. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys came up with this idea, how you pushed it out there, how was it received by students? Like, give me all of the details here.
Sure. Let me break it and then down for you because it was really, really fun. I had a blast doing it and I had a blast seeing it in action. So for our elementary, we kind of broke it up into like two surveys for early childhood. So you had like your pre-K, K1,
Hmm.
and then you had your second, third, fourth, and fifth, right? So for them, we kind of had the icons, like kind of like the logos, right, of the different programs that they use, and it was like Coding Monkey, it was
Hmm.
Kahoot, it was Screencastify, Nearpod, and it was really like click, touch, the program that you love the most, click, touch the program that you feel this is the greatest program ever. You have so much fun using it. You love when your teacher uses this in the classroom. You love using this program at home. And we put all of this on a Google form because
Hmm.
we are a Google district. So we created a Google form and we added all of those little images on a it was a multiple choice question, and it allowed for multiple students to be able to kind of go in there and kind of like go in and mark it up, right? We did that at the elementary level. At the secondary level, it was a little bit more descriptive. It was like, why is it that you love this tool so
Mm.
much? It was kind of like getting some feedback. I love it when my teacher uses it because my teacher is really engaged, and it really opened up our lens to the teachers that we have. And we really do have risk takers in our district, teachers that will, do whatever it takes to really make sure that the students understand the concept, understand the content. And I loved getting that feedback. I loved sharing that feedback to the teachers. It was an emotional moment for a lot of our teachers because they got to see, okay, yeah, you know what? Our students we're doing good, because I mean, during the pandemic, Nef, a lot of people were wondering, are we making ends meet with the students?
Mm.
Are we doing enough? And I think that that's something that teachers in general are always, wondering in their head, are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? Right? We take
Sure.
work home. Are we doing enough? Right? We come to work. Are we doing enough? Right? So this really gave them that, I think, gold star. It gave them that pat
Hmm.
on the back. Like, you are enough. You're doing enough. And guess what? The students love when you take a risk and you try these different tools out. And those are the tools that we found some commonality. And we said, okay, you know what? Students are loving these tools. Teachers, because we also survey
Hmm.
teachers are also loving these tools too. There's a link there, and we can't break that link because teachers
Sure.
have worked really hard to make sure that that link has been made. So let's keep that link going for our teachers.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I appreciate you kind of breaking it down in terms of that approach to both elementary students and also secondary students. And I think that makes us as educators feel a little bit more comfortable too, because you're trying this thing and sometimes you don't get any feedback in terms of, do students enjoy it? Do they feel like they're learning from it? I don't know, right? Like, you might have one student who is talkative, who is keen to share their opinion. And I'm sure like every teacher listening is like, yeah, I know exactly who that student is, who is going to tell me what they think. But a lot of times that is like a single opinion. It's the loudest person in the room, but that might not be emblematic of how the entire class feels.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it's something that folks can implement real quickly. It's a Google form, throw some logos on there, ask some questions, and what you end up with is really 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 helpful data, not only for somebody sitting in your position, but for classroom teachers, for parents, like everybody in the school community gets something out of that, which is really cool. Before we wrap up our discussion, we have a segment here where we ask every single one of our heroes, and that's you, now that you've been on the show, to share some tips for teachers. So, as a former film teacher, I'd like to know what is your advice for students in terms of how they can become better content creators?
This is like right up my alley. Okay. Our students right now are all living in a TikTok world of content creations. They're living in a world filled with people constantly, selling products on Instagram. They're sharing their life story, on, the Godfather of stories,
Mm-hmm.
like Snapchat. They're doing like everything. They're exposing themselves, and what they're doing, to the world like that, And I look back at when my picture was online for the first time. My first time that my picture was ever online was in 2000, I think 6 or 7. That was the first time, and it was MySpace. That was the
Mm.
first time that my picture was online, and I felt so vulnerable. And this is a different generation that we're dealing with now, Nef, where they are exposing more than pictures, videos,
Mm-hmm.
content, edited items, selling, marketing, all of that stuff is being done. And it's so important for our students as content creators in any space, for them to be able to know that they need to think before they post,
Mm,
because the very minute that anything gets posted on any kind of platform in a digital space, a footprint has been made. A digital
mm-hmm,
footprint has been made. And there are digital footprint software programs that are being developed, that are being articulated, that are being sold for companies, corporations across the world to start checking, the digital footprint of this applicant. And I think that that's right there alongside with what we're doing, really showing
mm-hmm,
and sharing with our students digital citizenship 101. And it's like, on a way, in many ways, it's back to basics. It's having these heartfelt conversations with students that, when you're using images, are you using free images that you're stealing, or are you using images that are 100% free from
mm-hmm,
pixabay.com, because that is an okay place to get them? Are you using them from Library of Congress? Like, where are you grabbing some of these articles, and are you, you know, stealing material online to use it in an essay? Are you
mm-hmm,
paraphrasing? How are you doing that? So that's definitely something that we need to continue to articulate to our students just across the world, really, because now that the world has been entirely open with internet and technology and tablets and laptops and different really wonderful tools, no joke, wonderful tools. We really need to make sure that our students are creating in a safe and secure way.
mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. In terms of recognizing that students either are already content creators or may aspire to be content creators, and our role as educators in order to make them more responsible content creators is paramount. That is amazing. All right. I actually do have one last question for you before we get out of here. So I know that you actually have
Okay.
your own podcast called Go Beyond Greatness with Dr. Fidelio. Can you tell us what inspired you to start your show? And for folks who are listening to this, will there be a season 2 of your podcast?
There will be. So I'm really excited about my podcast. It's Go Beyond Greatness with Dr. Fidelio. I love it. What inspired me to create it, it's an educational podcast with inspiring stories of human resiliency, stories of
Mm.
humility, stories of really, really great comedic timing. And these are just really research-based practices told in a funny, kitschy kind of way. And I think that what's really great is it's definitely needed right now. One of my favorite episodes that I did there was Attitude of Gratitude,
Mm.
and another one was Procrastination Nation. And it's really just identifying the who you are
Mm-hmm.
and the value that we bring to the table, and knowing that, yeah, it's okay. There's going to be days where it's going to be a 100% hot mess, but those are the days we're going to be okay. Those are the okay days, because those are the days that we get to appreciate, because at the end of the day, Naf, we still had a day, and not
True.
many people get that. So yeah, it's just really trying to find the silver lining. So that's another episode too, defining a silver lining. So I have a blast doing that, and thank you for doing that little shout out.
Yeah, no worries at all. Jesse, I so appreciate you joining EdTech Heroes. Teachers or anybody listening, be sure to check out the Go Beyond Greatness podcast. It's on Apple and Google Podcasts. I am your host, Nef Dukes, and I am looking forward to seeing y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of EdTech Heroes, presented by Screencastify.